Welcome to this week's Pilates. We're going to work on hips and lower back today, just to try and do a little bit of opening up and stretching and a little bit of control work, just to really help with any hip and lower back complaints, which are really closely related. So often you've got one and it's closely related to the other, and you might not be aware of both, but hopefully we just help to release off all those muscles connecting the two areas. So we're going to start off in standing. We've got tall feet together, and then we're just going to go from there, toes out, heels out, so your feet are hip width apart. Going to make sure we've got equal weight through toes and heels, so just sway forwards through weight onto the toes, backwards weight through the heels, and come to that midpoint. Nice equal weight through both legs. Soft kneecaps, so just make sure you're not locking out through the knees, nice soft kneecaps. Nice and long through the legs. So we're going to imagine that pelvis like a big bowl. Marble at the bottom of the bowl, you're going to arch and hollow through the lower back, rolling that marble forwards and backwards. Good. And then come up to that midpoint, halfway between the two, so you feel like that marble's at the bottom of the bowl. Keep those kneecaps nice and soft, and then think about lengthening up through the spine. So really lengthen through the back of the spine, lower spine, through between the shoulder blades, through the back of the neck, crown of the head. And then just do a couple of loops of the shoulders, and then we're going to just think about lifting the shoulders up, glide the shoulder blades together, open up through the collarbones, and then relax down through the shoulder blades. Good, and then from there, so we're just going to start warming up through the legs a little bit. So we're going to engage through the core muscles, pulling up through the pelvic floor, in through the belly button. And then we're just going to come into a little squat down, and then squeezing through the bottom, push the hips forward, keeping the pelvis neutral as you come back up. Breathing in, out as you squeeze and lift. So try and keep your knees over your ankles as much as you can. So it's easy to go this way, but actually we're going to really try and sit down as though there's a stool behind you. Squeeze to come up. Breathing in and out as you squeeze and lift. And as you make sure you're not arching, as you squeeze and lift up, don't arch through that lower back. So think about lengthening through the tailbone, pulling up through the belly button. Good. Let's do two more. Good, last one. Good, well done. And then from there we're going to come into hip twist. So actually bring your feet really close together, keep the equal weight through both feet, up nice and tall, pelvis neutral, core switched on. And maybe pop your hands onto your hips so you make sure you keep the pelvis really nice and still. We're going to soften through the left kneecap and then peel that right heel up off of the floor. Imagine your big toes in a pound coin, and you're just going to twist that knee out, swivel that toe on the pound coin, coming back in again. Breathing out, breathing in to come back in. Keeping everything from the pelvis up really nice and still. So it's easy to want to let this hip drop out or to twist with your pelvis as well, but actually really try and focus on keeping everything still apart from that right leg. Now if you want to take that up a level and challenge your balance, keep the left knee soft, foot onto shin, and twist from there. But again, keeping pelvis up, body really nice and still. Good. If that's too much, you feel you can't keep your balance, you can't control, then toe back on that pound coin, twisting out, coming back through. Good. Let's do a couple more on that side. Last one. Good, well done. And relax off. A little loosen off your legs. This is hard work on that standing leg as well. Feet together, up nice and tall, pelvis neutral, lengthen through the spine, shoulders down. Maybe hands on hips just to keep that pelvis nice and neutral. Soften through the right knee, so make sure it's not locked out. I'm going to peel the left heel up off of the floor. You can either rotate out there, keeping everything else really nice and still from the pelvis up, or if you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, put your foot on that shin, just working on that rotation out. Keep the knees soft on that side, you're nice and tall through that standing hip. Make sure you're not sunk down or you're not lifting up. You're nice and neutral through the pelvis. Shoulders relaxed, core switched on. That lengthening all the way through the crown of the head. That'll help you keep your balance. Good. Breathing out as you move that knee out. In as you come back. If it's too much, remember toe on pound coin, twisting out and rotating back in again. Good. Make sure that right knee, that standing knee, is nice and soft. You're not locking through the kneecap. Last 2 and 1. Good, well done. And relax down. Okay, have a little loosen up through the legs. And then from here, what we're going to do is come into our roll down. But if you're happy to, you can either go feet hip width apart. If you're happy to, and just to increase the stretch a little bit, stand on your left leg, cross your right leg in front. And then from there, we're going to think about rolling through the pelvis, rolling through the spine one vertebra at a time, keeping the pelvis still for as long as possible. And you should feel a nice stretch through the outside of the leg. So nice and tall, core switched on, and we're going to roll down, think about each vertebrae moving one at a time. So chin into neck, and then rolling down through the spine. So one vertebra at a time, rolling through the spine, trying to keep that pelvis neutral for as long as possible. And then when you can't go any further through the spine, then you can tip forward through the pelvis and lengthen through the outside of that front leg. And we're going to stack up pelvis first. So tuck that tailbone down between your legs, stacking up one vertebra at a time. Shoulders down, core switched on, nice and tall. And again, rolling down, chin to chest. Keep that pelvis up tall for as long as possible, and then start to tip through the pelvis. Good. And then stacking up pelvis first. So tuck that tailbone down, and then one vertebra at a time. All the way through. Good. And then we're going to swap sides. So we're going to stand on the right leg, cross the left leg in front, and then tuck chin to chest. Rolling through, keep that pelvis switched on. Core switched on, pelvis nice and neutral, and rolling through. Good, and then stacking back up, pelvis first, one vertebra at a time, coming up nice and tall, good, and again, chin to chest. Really think about each vertebrae moving one at a time, core stays switched on, rolling through. Good. And then stacking up one vertebra at a time. Good, nice, well done. Okay, and so then from there we're going to come down onto the mat. So make your way down. And we're just going to make sure that once we're on the mat that your feet are in line with hips and knees, so you've got nice equal distance all the way through. And then we're going to come down onto our back. So from here, just making sure, so those feet, knees, hips and shoulders when we lie down are in 2 parallel lines. You're going to make sure you lengthen through the back of the neck and just drop those shoulders away from your ears so that your collarbones are nice and wide and those shoulder blades are snuggled underneath the rib cage. Then we're going to lift your bottom up, lower your pelvis back down onto the mat. And from there I want you to imagine that you've got a marshmallow directly underneath your belly button between your spine and the mat, 2 pence coin directly underneath your breastbone between your spine and the mat, and we're going to just squash down onto them to begin with, so increase that pressure of your back onto the mat, and then we're going to lift away, keeping bottom and shoulders in contact so you can just glide your fingers underneath your lower back. Push down, lift up and away, and then we're going to come back down, but just maybe halfway onto that marshmallow directly underneath your belly button, and make sure that the spine's in contact with that 2 pence coin directly underneath your breastbone. So from that nice neutral position, we're going to try and keep the same pressure that you've got of your back onto the mat. So as we're starting to work, you're not allowing that pressure to change. So increase left to right or lift away from the mat at all. So we're going to use those core muscles and the abdominals to keep our back nice and neutral. So I'm going to take a breath in. So you breathe out, engage through the core muscles by pulling up through the pelvic floor, down through the belly button. And then from there, take a breath in. As you breathe out, I'm going to float one leg to tabletop. Breath in. So you breathe out, keeping that same pressure down on the mat, float the second leg to join it. And then from there, we're just going to come into one leg stretch. So we're going to lengthen one leg away. Breathe in as you come back to tabletop, then breathe out, lengthen the other leg away. Breathe in, come back to tabletop. So you can either just do one leg at a time, breathing out as you lengthen, in as you come back, keeping that same pressure of your back down onto the mat. If you want to make it harder, lengthen one leg away, and then breathing in, swap, lengthen the other leg away, breathing out, swap, lengthen that first leg away. So that increases the load. You'll feel like your belly button might want to lift up towards the ceiling, your back might want to lift away from the mat. You're going to keep that pressure the same. Make sure you're not lifting through the front. Keep that pressure down onto the mat. Breathing out, breathing in. Good. And if your hands are on the floor and you want to make it harder, you can bring your hands up, cross your chest, and that will make it harder again. Good. Keep that control. Pointing more towards the ceiling is slightly easier. Pointing away closer towards the mat is harder. So find a level that works for you, that you can control, that your back stays nice and neutral onto the mat. I'm going to do 2 more on either side. Last ones. Good, well done. Bring both legs back to tabletop. Hug those knees in towards your chest. Just have a nice, close hug. Pull those knees in towards your chest, and then allow the arms to lengthen out. And your back comes down onto the mat, and then squeeze in towards your chest. And then relax away. And then pop your hands onto your knees. Just do a big circle of your knees over your chest. So you're just really opening up through that lower back. And then swap side, swap direction of those circles. So you're just circling the other way, stretching out the back slightly differently as you go that way around. Good, well done. Hug knees into chest. Good. And lower one leg back down to the floor, and the other one down to join it. And just realign, so make sure feet in line with knees, hips, shoulders. Drop the shoulder blades down and come down onto that marshmallow, that 2p coin. And then we're going to come into hip twist level 2. So again, we're going to take a breath in as you breathe out, engage through the core muscles, pulling up through the pelvic floor, down through the belly button. Breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to float one leg to tabletop. Breath in. As you breathe out, float the second leg to join it. From there, keeping the equal pressure through both sides of your back and making sure that you're not lifting that belly button up away from the mat. We're going to take a breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to take one leg out to the side. Foot stays in line with the knee. Breathe in, coming back. Breathe out, take the other side out. So you're imagining that your shins are like front and back covers of a book. Breathing out as you open the front cover, in as you come back, out as you open the back cover, in as you come back. So the tempting thing to do here is to twist the knee out and keep the foot in the centre, but actually the foot should stay in line with the knee as you open up through the hip. Keep that pelvis nice and neutral. Make sure the back has equal pressure left and right side. So as you open up the right leg, you don't want the pressure to increase on the right side of the back. Good. Breathing out to open, in to come back. And again, so if you want to make it slightly harder, you can bring your arms across your chest. Good, let's do 2 more on either side. Equal yourself up on both sides. Good. And then from there, come back to tabletop. We're going to lower one leg to the floor, bring the other one down to join it. We're going to come wide with our arms, feet nice and close to your bottom, knees and feet together, and just roll both knees across to one side. Keep the shoulders flat, really open up through the upper side of the body. Look in the opposite direction to the knees, just to really open up all the way through the spine. Good. And And gently, with control, using those core muscles, bring the knees back to the centre and then across to the other side. Look away from your knees, really nicely open up through that upper side of the body. Keep the shoulders flat. Nice deep breaths in there. Good. One more breath in there. And then gently roll back through to the centre. Good. We're going to keep the feet nice and close to your bottom, but bring them hip width apart again. Make sure you're nice and long through the back of the neck. Drop the shoulders down, and then pelvis nice and neutral onto the mat. So coming onto that marshmallow, onto that 2 pence point. Now we're going to work on our shoulder bridge, so peeling the spine up one vertebrae at a time. So I want you to imagine your spine, each vertebrae one at a time, laying down onto the mat. I'm going to imagine each of those vertebrae like a pearl on a string of pearls. I'm going to peel up from the tailbone up the spine, just to kind of shoulder blade area. And when you're feeling it through your lower back, we should be using the tummy muscles and the bottom muscles for this. So we're going to take a breath in. As you breathe out, engage through the core muscles, pulling up through the pelvic floor, in through the belly button. Breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to squash down onto that marshmallow. And as you squash your back down onto that marshmallow, you should feel like the coccyx sacrum start to peel up off of the mat. We're going to shorten through the tummy muscles and peel one vertebrae at a time up off of the mat. Squeeze through the bottom, shorten through the tummy, the hips nice and level. And we're not going to lift too high. So if you feel like your back's kicking in, then drop that breastbone down towards the mat a little bit more. You should feel like you're working tummy and bottom. And then from there, we're going to lower down breastbone first onto that 2 pence coin. Keep lifting through the bottom, shortening through the tummy muscles, and lower one vertebrae at a time back down onto the mat. Good. And again, keep breathing. Squash down onto that marshmallow, peel that coccyx sacrum, one vertebrae at a time, up off the mat, shortening through the tummy, squeezing through the bottom, lengthening through the spine. Don't over arch through the lower back, so keep that breastbone down slightly. Then we're going to lower down, breastbone first, one vertebrae at a time. Good, well done. And again, really focus on that feeling of lifting one vertebrae at a time. Shorten through those tummy muscles, squeeze through the bottom, lengthening through the spine as you lift, and then lowering down, breastbone first. Shorten through the tummy, squeeze through the bottom. Really see if you can feel each vertebrae one at a time coming back down onto the mat. Let's do one more. Keep breathing, keep those core muscles switched on, really focus on that movement one vertebrae at a time as you peel up. Good. And then shorten breastbone down first, shorten through those tummy muscles, one vertebrae at a time coming back down onto the mat. Good, well done. Okay, and then from here we're just going to bring the feet as wide as the mat, so really wide feet, so your knees are quite wide as well. I'm just going to open up through the hips here. So we're going to roll both knees across to the left side. Going to keep your shoulders flat, and from there your right hip will lift off of the mat a bit, and that's fine. So you can either work here, and that should open up through the front of the right hip and maybe just through the inner thigh on the left. But if you want to increase that stretch a little bit, you can put your left foot onto the outside of your right thigh, and that will increase that stretch to the front of the right hip. So take some nice breaths in there, keep the shoulders flat. Good. And then you can gently uncross that left foot if it's crossed, and then roll the knees with care back to the centre. Roll across to the other side, both knees to the right, and you can either hold it there, or if you want to, you can pop your right foot on top of the left thigh. Just increase that stretch a little bit through the outside of the left hip and the inside of the right thigh. Keep the shoulders flat, keep breathing. Good. Good, and then gently, if your legs are crossed, uncross them, come back through to the centre. And then we're going to come carefully onto all fours. So just nice and easily move onto your front, just take your time, be careful. And then from here, we're just going to open up through the lower back a little bit more. So we're going to come onto all fours, and we're going to come into our cat-cow stretch. So nice long spine, shoulders away from our ears, gently push yourself away from the mat. And then from here, we're going to tuck chin to chest. We're going to lift the breastbone and belly button up towards the ceiling. Imagine you've got a tail, you're going to tuck it between your legs. It should open up through that lower back. And then we're going to lift that tail high, lower the belly button, lower the breastbone, and look forward, keep the neck nice and long, shoulders away from ears. And then we're going to go down again, chin to chest, lift the breastbone, lift the belly button, tuck that tailbone under. Imagine you've got a tail, tuck it between your legs. And then lifting the other way. Good, well done. Let's do one more curling under. So chin to chest, lift the breastbone, lift the belly button, tuck that tail in between your legs. And then from there, we're going to keep that big arch through the spine. You're going to try and keep your belly button and breastbone lifted away from your thighs as you sit back onto your heels. Keep your arms out long as much as you can, but you're going to try and keep that gap, breastbone and belly button away from your thighs. Good, well done. And then gently come back up onto all fours again, and we're going to take both hands across to the left side of your mat. And then from there, you're going to sit back onto your heels, opening up through the right side of your body. Again, nice deep breaths in. And then gently coming back up onto all fours, walk the hands to the centre, then across to the right edge of the mat, and then sit back onto your heels and open up through the left side of your body. Good, well done. And then from there, we're going to gently come back up again, and then we're going to open up through the hip flexors. So we're going to get you to bring your right leg in between your hands. I'm going to put your hands onto your thigh, and then from there I just really want you to imagine you've got a tail again. Tuck it down between your legs, pull that belly button in towards your spine, lengthen through the spine all the way, crown through the back of the neck, crown of the head. We're going to push the left hip forward, keeping that length through the back. You should feel an opening through the front of the left hip. So really opening up through the front of the left hip, and you don't have to be kind of really leaning forward through it. You just need to make sure that pelvis is in the right position, and you're pushing the front of the groin area forward, keeping that belly button pulled in, spine nice and tall. You should feel a nice stretch to the front of the thigh, front of the hip. Good. And then from there, we're just going to isolate that left hip a little bit more. I'm going to swap sides. So from that same position, keeping that left hip, kneeling on that left hip, you can pop your hands onto the mat if you want to. We're going to bring the left foot across to the right side of the mat. That'll be different for everyone in terms of how far you can go. We're going to come back up nice and tall. We're going to think about tucking that tailbone between the legs and push the front of the left groin towards the front edge of the mat. So you should open up a bit more through the inner thigh as you come up nice and tall. Lengthen through the spine, belly button in, and really opening up through the front of the hip. Nice deep breaths. Good. Well done. And then gently relax off. You can bring your hands onto the floor again. We're going to bring the knee to the centre, foot to the centre, and then as much as you're able to, you're going to take it out to the left side of the mat. And again, that's going to be different for everyone. We've all got a bit of a different range of movement through that rotation. But if you bring your right foot to the outside edge of the mat, you should just give you a bit more balance. You're going to come up. Again, think about tucking a tail between your legs. Push the groin forward to the front edge of the mat, and you've got a bit more of a stretch through the outside of the front of the hip. So nice and long through the spine, tucking through the pelvis, push forward through the groin, and feel that stretch. Good, keep breathing. That's why keeping that pelvis nice and neutral is really important, because all these muscles kind of have a really close connection to the lower back. So if they're tight, they can pull the lower back and irritate through the lower back as well. Good. And then gently relax off. So we're going to do the other side. So we're going to bring your left foot forward. I'm going to swap sides. I should have done it the other way around, shouldn't I? So left foot forward, kneeling on your right leg. We're going to imagine you've got a tail, tuck it between the legs, pull that belly button in towards your spine. Push the front of the hip forward, just nice and straight at the moment, so you're not twisting the hip at all. You're just opening up through the front of the hip and lengthening down through the back. Good, keep breathing, nice deep breaths. And again, actually, it's really nice to take a nice big deep breath in, because when your diaphragm comes down, that's where your front of your hip flexors will attach into the lower back, where the diaphragm kind of starts to attach. So actually keep really focusing on some nice deep breaths is important as well. Good. And then from there you can pop your hands onto the mat if you want to. You're going to bring your right foot across to the left side of the mat. Come back up tall, tuck that tailbone down, push your right groin to the front edge of the mat. So you're opening up a bit more through the inner hip, lengthening through the spine, pull that belly button in, feel that nice stretch through the inner thigh. Good. Nice deep breaths. And then gently, you can pop your hands onto the mat if you want to. Bring the foot back to the centre, then across to the right side of the mat. You can walk your left foot to the outside edge of the mat. Come up nice and tall. Imagine that tailbone, tuck it under. Push the front of your groin forward to the front edge of the mat. Good. You should feel that through the outside of the front of the hip. Again, just depends on where we're most tight as to where we feel it, but that long lower back pulling in through the belly button is really important. And nice deep breaths. Good, well done. And then relax off. And then we're just going to finish off with a little bit of pigeon stretch, so stretching through the glutes. So we're going to cross your left leg in front of your right knee. Now this might not be accessible to everyone, so if it's not, then I'll show you an alternative. But if you can come into that position, we're going to then lengthen through the right leg. Try and keep the pelvis nice and level to the floor. And then from there, you should really stretch the outside of the left bottom cheek. And you can come down onto elbows if you want. Or if you feel comfortable too, you can come down, forehead down to the mat. If that's not comfortable for you and your hip doesn't feel right, then don't push through it. I'm going to give you an alternative. So if you're happy in that position, stay there. If not, come onto your back. We're going to cross your left ankle over your right knee. You're going to bring that right knee in towards you and push the left knee away. You should feel a stretch through the left bottom cheek outside of the hip. So either this position, holding it there, or if you're comfortable and you're still holding that position into pigeon stretch, then just hold it for one more breath there. Good. And then gently, with control, come back up onto all fours. We're going to swap legs and put your right leg in front of your left knee, lengthen through that left leg, and then you can come down where you're comfortable, either elbows or forehead towards the mat, but keep that pelvis nice and level with the mat. Make sure you're not rocking back onto that right bottom cheek. And if you're already on your back doing the left leg, then we'll swap over. So uncross your left leg off of your right. We're going to cross your right ankle over your left knee, bringing that left knee towards you, pushing the right away and feeling the stretch to the outside of your right bottom cheek. Good, just holding it there, keep breathing. Well done. So if you're in pigeon stretch, then gently come up out of pigeon stretch, bending that left knee, uncrossing and coming back down. And if you're on your back, then just gently uncross your legs and just come into a nice, comfortable sitting position. And we're just going to make sure that you're sat up nice and tall. So I want you to imagine a nice equal weight through both sitting bones, lengthening up through the spine, drop the shoulders down, and we're just going to finish off by taking 3 nice big deep breaths in. So as you breathe in, we're going to think about lengthening through the back of the neck, crown of the head. And as you breathe out, keep that length through the spine, but relax through the shoulders. Good, 2 more in your own time. Big breath in. Good, well done. So let's just open up through back and hips and just fire up some of those muscles that can sometimes get a little bit just switched off if they're a bit sore or painful, or if we get into bad habits. So I hope you enjoyed, and I shall see you next time. Take care. Bye.